Hello and welcome to City Edition, the City of Bend's video news magazine. I'm Justin Feinstone. The Deschutes Collaborative Forest Project is an important step in managing our forests and protecting Bend from another catastrophic wildfire. Take a look at how this very diverse group is working together.
The Deschutes Collaborative Forest Project is a group of community leaders who are trying to develop a shared vision for how to manage our national forests.
And they want to see a different type of dialogue taking place in the community about the future of that forest.
This collaborative is a little bit unique or special in that the extra collaborative spirit that goes on, people are really trying to come up with solutions here as opposed to arguing, bickering about old staked out positions.
The Deschutes Collaborative was actually something that came out of the Collaborative Forest Restoration Act that Congress passed. We were one of the first ones in the nation created 3 years ago.
The goal of the Deschutes Collaborative Forest Project is to bring people together and ultimately get to a point where we have forest landscapes that are more resilient and more resistant. So they are resilient in the sense that they can withstand wildfire without allowing that fire to become catastrophic, and resistant to disease and infestation from things like mountain pine beetle. One of the issues that we're facing with West Bend in particular is that we've had forests that have had fire excluded for decades, and that's allowed many small trees to grow up that otherwise would have burned in low intensity burns, and the consequence would have been fewer, bigger trees. The pictures that you see historically that the loggers came through and really made their money off of are those big trees in the open park-like stands. That's the historic condition that these forests evolved in before European settlement and before fire suppression. And so one of the things that we're attempting to do with the West Bend project is try and set the clock back to that historic condition and let those processes become more natural, more close to the way they had been prior to settlement.
We've come out of an era of what had been termed the timber wars in the Northwest and in other places, where environmentalists were suing the Forest Service and fighting with loggers, and the forest products industry was suing environmentalists, and everybody, it was pretty heightened, pretty bitter, and went on for a very long time. But I think what we all realized is that was maybe necessary from the environmentalist standpoint, at least, but we need to move past it. We need to figure out how we can get things done in the forest, and the cold hard truth is that loggers are the only people that have the equipment and the knowledge to make treatments on the ground. That's just a truth. And if we want to do this work, and it is pretty widely agreed, and I strongly agree that it needs to be done, then we need to work together. We all need each other. We can only do this together. None of us can do it alone.
You know, if you can come to agreement on 85–90% of the things as opposed to where we were 10 or 15 years ago, I think we're making progress.
Well, what you see over my shoulder represents an untreated portion of the forest that's relatively representative of what the forest looks like across much of the lower elevation forests. And over time, the series of restoration treatments that take place include thinning the small trees, mowing the underbrush that has come in without fire over the last 100 years. And then ultimately, after this step is completed, we implement a prescribed fire that helps restore some of the other ecological functions of a dry forest.
So Phil's Trail and Virginia Meissner Snow Park are two very important destinations in the forest, very close to Bend. First of all, we've been working really closely with Central Oregon Trail Alliance, COTA, and the local recreation community to make sure that everyone who uses the forest and goes mountain biking knows that this is coming, knows that we're going to go in and treat the forest with fire and some other things. So you may not be able to get to some of your favorite trails exactly when you want to, but man, we've got a great trail system, and so everyone should just stay tuned and sort of shift your plans a little bit as we're making the forest better and guaranteeing that long term you're going to have a great trail system.
So we're trying to accelerate the pace and scale of restoration, and what that means is we're trying to reduce the stocking levels, we're trying to reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfire. And I think with this year's fire season is pretty good evidence that we need to be doing this on a broader landscape.
So the collaborative is all about taking all of those different perspectives and coming up with something that's good for the forest and does what the Forest Service intends, which is put it back onto this healthy historical trajectory, and at the same time make it work for all those different groups. That's a tall order, but I have to say we've made a lot of progress doing exactly that.
we've known each other for some time, and I guess you could characterize us as having been adversaries, but now I think we're, you know, instead of fighting with each other, we're working together, we're trying to reach some common solution. And, you know, if we disagree on things, we do so respectfully and try to move on.
Our commitment to the City of Bend is that we will have closures in these areas, but we will provide information about those closures on our website, and we'll give information for folks to connect to that website ahead of time so they can plan accordingly.